So again, right away I noticed that I need to be in radian mode because I don't see degree symbols anywhere here. Given an equation that has stuff that does not look like I can do this by hand. So we are going to learn how to do this on the calculator. First thing that we're going to learn how to do is find the function value f of 7.8. I'm going to teach you how to do this a different way. What would you normally do for the 7.8? Just plug it in for x. I'm going to show you how to do it a different way. I want you to go to y equals on your graphing calculator, and I want you to type this in as your y1. I've typed it in there. If you have the newer calculators, use the ability to make a fraction. It's your friend. Use it. It's given to you. Again, making a fraction would be alpha y equals enter. If you have the older calculators, you just got to make sure you're putting the right amount of parentheses in. I'll walk around and see who has what, but just, giving you some advice. If you have the newer ones, use it. What is that? Oh, that's a big one. You're good. Oh, you're the older one. You don't. So, I knew the older one. The three of you, I don't know if anybody else does, but so far the three of you, if you're not getting the right answer, ask me right away so I can not wait till the end to fix you, okay? Anybody else have the one that doesn't do fractions? Yours do fractions? Yes, it is. Alpha y equals enter. Oh, it doesn't. Now let me fix it for you. It even gave you the option. That's weird. Sorry. It's high over 10. Now I believe you. You can do that. Yeah, you can do that. Oh, wait, did you close the parenthesis after the 10? Don't close it. You see how mine's an open parenthesis and then another open? It needs to be open, or it won't work. We're not graphing it. We're not graphing it. We're not graphing it. We will graph it later. You might have seen mine when I first opened it, had a graph on it, because that's the last thing we're going to do. Okay, so what we're going to do is now we're going to get out of the screen. We're just going to go to the calculation screen. You can just do second mode to get there. And this is what I'm going to show you that's new. So yes, you can just plug in 7.8 and type everything in here, but I needed to graph it and I didn't want to type it twice. So I've already typed it in. What we can do is we're going to click on vars. And when I click on vars, you'll notice the vars button turns red. So if you heard me but don't know where vars is, just look up there. See how it's red? That's where I just clicked. Then I'm going to go over to y vars. So I'm going to go over. And we're going to choose function, which is number 1. You can either click 1 or enter. And I typed the equation into y1. So I'm going to choose y1 or number 1. And it's going to show in my calculation screen. Now, we're going to open up a parenthesis, 7.8. And this is saying f of 7.8 as long as the function is in y1. Enter. And I didn't have to go type in the 7.8 into the equation. It did it for me. That's really helpful too if you've got multiple places where x's are. You don't have to keep typing it in all these places. You could just use the graph, or the y equals, I should say, and f of. So let me go over that one more time. If you're taking any notes, you think maybe you'd forget this and you don't want to have to go look on the video later to find it. What I did from the start is I typed it in, and then I went to vars, and then I arrowed over to y vars, and I chose number 1, just function. And then I chose number 1, y1, because that's where I put my function. Parenthesis, then the number, 7.8, close parenthesis, enter. If you didn't get it, if it didn't work for you, please ask. Like, make sure you stop. Did you get a different answer or did it give you an error?
Yeah, I got a different answer.
Are you in radian mode?
Yeah.
Okay, I'll come look. In the meantime, go ahead and write down your answer. It's about 2.3140. I didn't say what to round to, but usually I do 4 decimals. That's kind of my usual thing. Okay, so you closed the parentheses here, and I do not have those closed, because that's telling me that's the end of doing the cosine. But that's not supposed to end. It's not supposed to be the end. Let's see if it fixes it. Okay. Now, why did you use the parentheses to do the fraction? Does yours not do fraction?
No.
It doesn't?
No, it doesn't.
All right, the next is saying find the first 3 positive values for x for the given value f of x equals 6. So what this is saying is the x values are the angles. We're going to find the first 3 angles that are positive that give us a y value, the output for cosine, as 6. Okay? All right. So first thing I'm going to do is just say 6 equals. I'm going to replace the f of x with 6. And I'm sorry, I'm looking on a paper because I don't want to keep moving up and down because I don't remember the equation. So 6 equals 2 plus 5 cosine, and then pi over 10 x minus 3. Is that it? Yeah. So I just set them equal to each other. And now we're going to solve an equation, right? We're going to take away 2 from both sides. And then after that, I'm going to divide by 5. So I have 4/5 equals cosine pi over 10 x minus 3. After this, I recommend you do not try to work ahead of me because you're going to miss some things. So once you get here, we definitely need to go at the same pace. What would be my next step for trying to get x by itself?
Sorry, divide by multiply by 10 cosine over pi. Nope. Divide by cosine of pi over 10. Nope. Okay.
It doesn't just have to be Dylan trying. Other people can try in here. Corey. Say it again, honey. Right. The only thing that can cancel out cosine is cosine inverse. So we're not dividing by cosine. We are undoing cosine. So cosine inverse happens next. Both sides of the equation, cosine inverse. So now I have cosine inverse, 4/5 equals, and then the cosine inverse undoes the cosine. And we get pi over 10 times x minus 3. Again, do not work past me because I'm actually going to have to stop here and explain a bunch of things before we go to the next step. You guys okay through here, though? Okay. So now I'm going to go off to the side here and explain a few things. When we were doing this in the last chapter, now this is going to be an answer that I don't know. I can't just give you the answer. They're not special. Not special right triangle values. So this would be the kind that I would use cosine inverse on my calculator. And when we were doing that before, I told you to do it between 0 and 360 or 0 to pi. And we got usually 2 answers. Here you're asked to find the first 3 positive answers. So we're going to be finding more than 2 answers, but let's just start and pretend we were finding 2 answers to begin with.
So that what I would have to do is think about where is cosine. You see where I wrote the cosine inverse right here in pink. Where is cosine of whatever equal to a positive 4/5? Where is cosine positive? First or fourth quadrants. Okay? So the first thing I need to think about is it's going to be in the first or fourth. So that means we're going to have a terminal side in the first. We'll also have a terminal side in the fourth. These are not drawn to scale. That could make a triangle here. That could make a triangle here. They're not drawn to scale. Inside of these two triangles, we'll have a reference angle. And those reference angles will be the same angle. We'll just have a different terminal theta angle. What we're going to do to make this as easy as we can on ourselves is we're going to look at from 0, if I rotated up or if I rotated down, I would get to the answers. I'm going to think about rotating up or rotating down to get to where those terminal sides are. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to find a positive theta and a negative of the exact same theta to start myself out in finding these answers. All right, so what I'm going to do in my equation so I can find both a positive and a negative is when I do cosine inverse, I'm going to put a plus minus in front of it. So that's how I'm going to get a positive theta and a negative theta. So I could at this moment type in my calculator, I'm not going to. I could at this moment type in my calculator cosine inverse 4/5 or negative cosine inverse 4/5, and I would get a positive answer and a negative answer. And then I would still have to do stuff to that answer to get x by itself. So this is where I'm going to get a positive and negative. But because I still have to do stuff to it, I'm just not going to type it in the calculator yet. I'm going to leave it because that's going to be an ugly answer. So I'm going to leave it. The other thing we have to think about is I told you that we want 3 answers. These by themselves only going to give me 2. And if one of the answers I get is a negative, it won't even count because I need the first 3 positives. So what do I do if I do have a negative answer? What do I do to make it into a positive answer? That is in the exact same location. So not 360 because we're in radian, but we're going to add 2 pi. We're going to find a coterminal answer. So if we did get a negative, we're going to add that 2 pi to get a positive answer. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to make sure that if I do have any negatives, that I can add 2 pi on. So to this equation here, I'm going to say plus minus cosine inverse of 4/5. And whatever that is, I might want to add 2 pi to it. But what if I got 2 negative answers? Might want to add, or maybe it's super negative. I don't know. I might want to add 2 pi more than once. Do you guys remember we had a quiz where we had to add 2 pi more than once? And some of you didn't. Remember that? Those of you that didn't do it, remember more. We had to add 2 pi more than once or subtract it more than once so we could get that positive or negative answer. So we could potentially add this or subtract it more than once. I'm writing add, but I could subtract it if I needed to. So there was another day where I told you what we could do to 2 pi to make it so we could do any amount. Does anybody remember what we do to 2 pi? So we could make it like adding any amount of 2 pi's. I go around 400 times if I want. I'll hint. I'll hint. I'll give you a hint. That's what I'm going to say. It's a variable. Nobody remembers? Remember? I think I did a K, but you could use an N if you want to. But I'm pretty sure I did a K. So now, will that add on any amount of 2 pi's and I'll get those coterminal angles? What if k is 0.5?
K has to be an integer.
Right. So when we did this before, that's what we talked about. We said, well, we can take any multiple of 2 pi. That's what 2 pi k is, any multiple, but k has to be an integer. So back when we did it, I wrote out, comma, k is an integer. I'm not going to write that out. Well, I am, but I'm going to write it out using symbols because I don't know if you notice in math, we like to do symbols because it's way less work than writing out the words k is an integer. And symbols will mean the same thing here as they do in like French or Italian or whatever. Okay, symbols are kind of more like, what's the word?
Universal.
Sure, universal. Thank you. Pass it.
Do they mean the same thing in Greece though? Because they actually mean K's.
The answer is
Right.
no, in case you're wondering.
Oh.
Okay, first of all, aren't a lot of the Greeks the ones that made this up in the first place?
Right, but like.
Yeah, but if it's not, if you
they're
didn't know it was in the context of math and you were really dumb,
Right.
probably
They're like,
not.
Beta Pi Prime, oh my god, I love her.
Oh my gosh. Talk to her later about that, please. Okay, so I'm going to do K. And then I'm going to have this weird shaped E thing. Is this a Greek letter? I don't think it is. I don't.
It could be just really badly drawn. I don't know.
Ouch.
This is what it looks like. No. And then integer symbol is kind of like a Z with 2 lines. So this just means that K is an integer. I don't remember what that thing's called, though, to tell you, honestly. I have to look it up later. Okay, equals pi over 10 times x minus 3. Okay? So now this is going to give me every possible answer for pi over 10 times x minus 3. I do need to find what x is, so I still have to solve it. But by doing the cosine inverse and having no restrictions whatsoever, this gives me all the answers for the cosine inverse portion of it. So now we're going to keep solving. What should we do to both sides to get x by itself? Okay, so we're going to multiply both sides by 10 over pi. I am not multiplying k as an integer because that's just a statement. It's not really part of the math. So I'm going to write it as 10 cosine inverse 4/5 over pi plus 20k, where k is an integer, equals x minus 3. Now my 5 is gross, so I'm going to fix my 5. Yes. That's a good question. So what?
I got there.
You got there, but I don't know if everybody did, because the same question happened in my first class as well. Make sure when we multiply 10 here, but we're also multiplying the denominator, with pi, so the pi's will cancel. Literally exact same question in the other class. And then we'll add 3 at the end. I like to put the 3 in front, so I can do 3 plus or minus 10 cosine inverse of 4/5 over pi plus 20k, where k is an integer. And now we have what x equals. Now you're allowed to go use your calculator.
Now I don't want to.
So because 20k could mean any multiple, like k could be whatever, I will first try, what do you think value of k I'm going to try first? Can you read my mind? No. 0. I'm going to try when k is 0 first. That's the first thing I'm going to try. So if I'm typing in when k is 0, I actually don't have to type in the 20k because it won't be there. I'll type it in just for funsies for you guys. Actually, I've already typed it in. I'm not going to retype it. Took me a while. So you don't have to type in the 20, 0. I just typed it in for you so you know that that's the first K that I went with. So go ahead and type yours in. Make sure that we do get, I'll hit enter so you can see that you should get 5.04 something. See, if you have any problems, let me know so I can fix what you did on your calculator. Let's make sure we can all get the same answer. If it doesn't work, especially with you all that have to do like the extra parentheses and stuff, if it doesn't work, you stop me right away. Okay? Everybody will be patient while I help you catch up if it doesn't work. So I got an answer of about 5 point something. But remember, it was like 3 plus or minus. So now I'm going to do the same thing again, but with the minus sign. So you don't have to copy the entire, you don't have to type the whole thing again. If you have the newer calculators, you can just grab it. If you have the older ones, you can do second enter and it brings it back. And then you can just go and change the plus to a minus by typing on top of it. And I got 0.95 something. So stop me if you're not getting my answers. But what I do notice is I'm trying to get the first 3 positives, and when I did plus and when I did minus with no K values, with no extra 20, I got 2 positive answers. If I were to make my K value 1, that would mean I would take each of these and add 20 to it at the end. Those would both be positive. If I were to make my K value -1, so basically if I subtracted 20 from each of these, I would get negatives. So these have to be the first 2 positives. So then what would be our third positive answer? These are the first 2 positive answers. It would be taking the second one, the smaller of the 2, and adding 20 times 1. The second one's going to give us the next positive. Okay? So that is section B. Now, a lot of people last year, they skipped over section B and they just jumped to section C to get their answers. Then they never learned how to do section B. And then they were in trouble later when I said, I'm just going to grade your work. I'm not going to even grade that you have the right answer. And then they couldn't do the work because they didn't know how to do it. So please, I know it's like, I'm about to show you the easiest way of getting the answers, but you should use that as a check to make sure you did it right, not as how you got your answers. So I have my answers. I don't know what we're rounding to. I can't remember what it says to do, but there's the answers. I'm not going to copy them down if that's okay, just because of time. I just want to show you what to do for part C that says verify it with a graph. Yes?
So for work, you want us to write all of this?
Oh, yeah. That would be your work. Now, as you do it, though, it just becomes like fast. I explained a lot. I talked a lot.
Even if we did our work and we write, like if we don't remember all the symbols, if we just write if K is an integer.
Yeah, that's fine.
Okay.
Do you have to write it in case they're here?
Yeah, because if you don't write it, then a K can be anything.
Alright.
So I know you know it means it's an integer, but like we're going to, if some random college professor off the street walked in and looked at your work, they would know that you knew it was an integer.
You should probably call it helps for random college.
I don't know. They heard about you and they're like, this Patrick kid, I want to see how good he is. Oh, K's an integer. Okay. All right. So we did that. We got our 3 answers. I didn't write them down. They're on my calculator. So now we're going to verify by graphing each side of the function as a separate equation. So in my y equals, I still have that y1, and you'll notice y2 I made 6. So we're going to graph the 6 and we're going to graph the equation, and we're going to use this like it's a system of equations. We're going to find where they're equal. We're going to say, where are these equal to each other? So you're going to graph them. Before you hit graph, though, you may want to consider your window. The amplitude is 5. The sinusoidal axis, it moves it up 2. So I need to go up at least 7, down to -3. Probably the y's are fine, -10 and +10. But the x's, looking at my answers, if I've done them right, we need values that are positive all the way past like 21. So make sure you go to your window and change your X window so that it will show all of the answers that we got. So I made my window go from -2 to 23. It doesn't have to be the exact same as mine. But just make sure your window shows all of them or you're not going to be able to find them all. So once you get to your window, go ahead and hit graph. I'm going to go over this. Some people said they knew how to do it, but then I showed them something that they did not know before, and they thought it was the greatest thing ever. So I hope I can do that for you too. Are we ready? Are we ready? So I'm going to find the intersection. Do you guys know how to find the intersection?
Yeah.
Where do we go?
Second trace.
Okay, so let's do second trace, intersect. The first two ask that you're on the first and second curve. Like I only typed 2 in, so yeah. Enter and then enter. Now the third one, for the guess, do not arrow, 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 arrow. Don't keep hitting that stupid arrow button. It takes forever. You can literally type in what you want to go close to. So remember ours is like what was it? 0.9. So I'm going to just type in 1. Let's type in 1. It's close to 1. I'm just going to type in 1. Here, let me move this so you can see. I'm going to type in 1 and it shows up. Oops, it didn't type. Type in 1 and it shows up down there. And then hit enter. And it's done. And we got the right answer. Okay, so I'm going to do it again. We're going to do second trace. We're going to do intersect. And this time I want to type in my second one, and it's somewhere around 5. So I'll just type in 5. And the reason why you have to type in 5 or whatever the number is because, oops, what did I just do? Oh, I forgot to hit enter, enter. Enter, enter. Okay, now I'll type in 5. The reason why I'm typing 5 in and not just hitting enter, because there's like 3 that the calculator could see, and you need to tell it which one you want. So that's what the guess is for. And we got 5.0483, which is what we had. And last one, second trace, intersect. That was somewhere around 20 or 21. Oh, I did it again. Second trace, intersect, enter, enter. Somewhere around 20 or 21. And it will confirm that I did it correct. So step 3 or step C is just making sure that you are right. But step C won't be a thing on a test. It will be like, show me your work on the test. Okay? Any questions?